the days are still beautiful. How beautiful depends on our vision. And our vision is deeply connected with the immune system of us, because it's making feelings and experience, and that experience is gonna either make the flow of life go, or it's gonna block it. And the beautiful thing is, the truth is, that nothing is fixed, neither vision. We build up our vision over the time until today, but the power of us consciousness is we can change it, we can shape it, we can give it new image according to our likes, according to what we want, what we really want. The proof of that is if we put 10 people in the same situation and ask them how was that, they would describe it in a very unique way. So we've got the same situation, but we've got different vision for each one of us. Someone's gonna see it like this, someone's gonna see it like that, someone's gonna see it in a middle mixture of both. So this morning we've got very special guest. With us will be artist. Artist, her name is Shanti, who is well known, who studied fine art, who actually went from thinking about disease or decay because her mom had health crisis and she was next to her and she could feel it all. But then she started playing with the different fabrics, with the different materials, and she started projecting that very artistically. And making beautiful pictures. In the process, she found out that deep inside the matter, there is a magic, there is a light. And she understood it's very much connected with healing. So her art is representing the light, the healing, the matter together. I'm gonna give it over to Shanti to tell you about this. Shanti, please take over.
Thank you, Sister Radha. I'm Shanti to everyone this morning. Yeah, it's a beautiful start to the morning. So thank you for inviting me. It was very unexpected, but somehow Baba's programs always end up being part of my process every time I have an exhibition. So thank you for making this happen again. I'd like to this morning, I've just started a new space called Gaia. And last weekend, I had my first exhibition at Gaia. And it was quite a special opening of the space. And I think this morning I'm going to spend a little time just talking about, the exhibition itself, what it's about, and my creative process. I've got a presentation. If Danielle can assist me in getting that on, I'd like to maybe just talk to that. I know there's a short video as well, but I think we could maybe just go through the presentation. So Gaia is the space that I've created, and I've decided to call it a habitat for art and healing. It's a space where I would like to see creatives, not just fine artists, but creatives from every person is a creative essentially, to come into the space and to actually start to discover their creative selves. So it's a dream, a vision that I've had, to walk a particular path with creativity, given my own life and how that has helped me heal myself, or whether it was holding space for people in the world. It was difficult not to have this to go to when life became difficult. If we can move on to the next slide. This is just a snippet. The exhibition was primarily looking at different aspects of or disciplines of art making. And the exhibition, which runs for the whole month of April, consisted of three artists, mainly Shelley Berry, who's a filmmaker. Shelley was shot when she was very young in taxi violence, and she made some incredible films. So we were screening one of her films that talked about her own journey through that. Mahen, who is standing behind Shelley, is a photographer. He's traveled many countries and he's captured beautiful spaces, people, and he's very passionate about what he does. When I saw Mahen's work, he's been to many countries in the East. He's been, to spaces in Egypt. He's followed his own path of, where his calling took him. And when he found himself in these spaces, he could not help but bring that back. And he's created many books about these stories. So it was quite incredible to see a lot of Mahen's passion or what he sees, being brought forward to the world. And I keep many of his pieces in my home because it always takes me into a very peaceful place and space within myself. And yes, we had our debut with Brother Freddie. I'm sure some of you may know him, who makes the most extraordinary chimes. His chimes has been a big part of my making. The sound of the chimes is my music for the soul, and with that, I'm able to sort of enter into beautiful states. So, we decided that when we create, we don't create by ourselves, but we create in a way that different people inspire us, or their different art making capabilities or craft making capabilities help us as well. The next slide, please. I'm going to talk briefly about two pieces in particular that I made, and I decided to bring this picture on with Shelley in it, just so that you can get a sense of the scale of the artwork. I normally work big. I work big because I feel like my entire body needs to be captured in the process of making. My initial, because I started working with the body, and as Radha was explaining, my mom was ill for 10 years, and I had to come to terms with what was happening with her body. And what that forced me to do was start to look beyond the physical decay, the physical manifestation of illness, and to start looking deeper at what was happening to her during this period. And that has, it has taken me into a space of working where when I show up in the space of making art or creating with whatever material I find, or even just observing things or that I think I could possibly use in my art making, I have to tap not just, looking at it on that physical level, but actually feeling and connecting with it. So whether it is, leaves that you pick up or sticks, or whether you see some seeds, you go beyond just that physical manifestation of it. So the two pieces I'm going to talk briefly, which will give you some sort of insight into, what this meant for me, I think will give you a good sense of why I feel that healing is so much a part of creating. And when you create, there is healing that happens naturally in many forms. Can we go to the next picture, please? So, the pictures don't do justice to the actual work. It would be wonderful if people could see it. This is a piece that I created. I had gifted myself with a bunch of protea flowers. And when it was time to, the flowers had shared its bloom and, the colors faded, it started to dry, I decided, okay, I will throw them away, put them into the compost. But something compelled me to keep it. And I just kept it and I kept it. And one evening, I took these proteas and I asked them, what are they telling me? Why am I not able to throw it away? And what I started to do was I started to pick every single part of the flower. I started to pull out the leaves, the petals, the filaments. And the protea is such a complex flower. And you can only actually see that when you start to take it apart. And I sat for almost a whole night in meditation. I put a white canvas down and I sat with my music and I had the windows open, so my chimes were playing. And I went into a very deep state of connecting with this material, this dried flower that may seem to have no significance, but the journey it took me through in pulling the small pieces apart was quite incredible. And there was a particular energy, obviously, that was forming while doing this. And I then started to play with it, to allow it to take me through a process. And at some point I thought, okay, I need a line, I need a pattern. And that's how this pattern evolved. This is the first piece of the Gaia series that I'm making. And I think it was very symbolic in terms of, my state of being at that time and how I started to take these pieces of the protea and put it together. Also, I needed to then marry that with a different concept. And I was so drawn to a beautiful yellow tree at some point that I decided to collect its fallen petals. And that's what you see on the yellow part. I had collected these and dried them over a few months. Their smells were just incredible as it started to dry. So you really get to understand and connect with something that, you would think is just there. And I felt that connection with everything around us was so critical. And I kept to that feeling of continuous connection. I remember a story with the yellow flowers because I got to the office one day and one of our finance guys were outside and I said to him, have you looked at this tree? It's like amazing. And he says to me, oh, but it's, one of the worst things because do you know how much it costs us to keep cleaning these petals? And you start to think, who was there first? And, the buildings were built around the tree. And so the spaces that we find ourselves in, often we don't actually see what is there, what is around us. And even though this tree exists within this concrete jungle, it continues to bloom in this most amazing way. And that was a feeling that I felt that I needed to capture the afterlife of these beautiful plants and flowers, and it captivated me in a particular way. So yeah, if we can move on to the next piece, I'd also like to just talk briefly to that. This is the second series of Gaia that I created. It has a very simple story, actually. If you see, there's almost like these few leaves that kind of look like a fairy on the right of your screen, the lower part of your right. That was just a friend of mine decided she was going to draw a picture, and she drew this leaf that had a life. And that idea captivated me, and I decided to then give life to some syringa seeds that I had collected over time. And the syringa tree has a very interesting story about, how it's traveled here, and how it destroys our ecosystem, and it draws a lot of water, and other indigenous trees are compromised in the process. And I started to think about this alien tree and its purpose. But also at the same time, I thought, but this is a tree I grew up with as a young person. It was used, the leaves were used in rituals when you had measles. Your parents, or grandparents, my grandmother especially, she would rub it with turmeric and apply that on my body. It had lots of healing properties. It would be used in our baths. It would be used to hang on doorways, to keep sort of negative energies away. It was used in prayer rituals. And I thought about this tree that, on the one hand, it's so damaging and destroying to our environment. On the other hand, it's such a it carries such healing properties. And I started to work with that. And I must say, this piece came as a result of a number of people having, seen the small pieces of it that I've built up, decided that they're going to find me material, and people started to collect material, and I would get these gifts. And that's how this piece sort of came about. And it's a building of composition. And one would think creating is like you got to be a good painter, or you got to have certain talent. But I think creativity is more about connection. How do you connect with a particular medium? How do you connect with anything and everything around you? Because ultimately you can create with anything. What it does require is the time, the quietness. And for me, I think, if I didn't have this line of work, and I call it work as well, because as much as I'm involved in the corporate world and I work full time, my other time is spent making art. And I don't think my work in the corporate space would be the same if I did not create. I think it helps me and it guides me navigate the corporate spaces, or just people in general, because our world is it's not an easy space to live in, and my process of art making actually allows for me to process a number of things, to become absolutely quiet, and to see things and people for who they are, to be able to connect on a level that's not just by word or communicated, but to feel the energy of people, where things are coming from. And it's helped me find myself or to help myself enter into very peaceful states. And I'm very conscious always of my state of being, wherever I find myself in. When I'm creating, my absent body really gets attention. Often, we always confronted with our emotions and feelings and our thoughts, and but when you create, you become quieter, and then different parts of yourself, you start to access very different parts of yourself. Yeah. And just on the next slide, when I did my master's 2 years ago, I started to think about this process, and what is it about creating? What is my process? And if we can go to the next slide, I'd just like to talk to a process that I would like to share. And I feel it's not just related to art making, but it's actually related to life. So when I started to reflect on my practice, and I wrote a very self-reflective thesis on that, I realized that the first thing that actually happened with every piece of work was captivation. I was captivated by something that actually didn't leave me. And I knew if the next step was to contemplate this captivation, and if I didn't give it that time of contemplation, it would disappear. So when something actually captures you, and you don't give it any attention, you lose gems, or you lose opportunities for learning about something, or creating something. And the contemplation period is quite important. It's a time when you sit with it, or like I sat with those proteas the day I started to dissect it. Me not throwing it away was what captivated me. Why couldn't I do that? What is it that holds me to it? And my contemplation was sitting with it and picking it apart. And when I did that, I started to see so much in the flower itself, that took me to many spaces within myself, how things connected together, just the makeup of that flower and the detail that it holds. And it gave me so much inspiration to then create with it. And that's how the piece came about. And when you create, I think the next step, and whatever we create, we can create for ourselves, but the ability to collaborate and share that with the world, or to create with people, is actually quite a special process. So yeah, coming full circle to Gaia, I think, my dream is that, it's a space where we can inspire people to create, and it also becomes a space where we then start to collaborate with each other. And yeah, so this exhibition is still showing. I'd love for anyone that's in Johannesburg to come and view it. We'll be hosting probably events over the next few weeks. So I will be sending out times, etc. And I'm sure if somebody wants to get in touch with me, then my number can be shared and we can do a walkthrough with some of the artworks. So that's what I'd like to share. And maybe we could just end with a short video that Mahen put together. If we're able to play that, it just gives you a step of some of the other artists and the works that's on display. It's a very special.
First thing, wow, thank you so much for taking us on this journey, because it's a very special journey back to ourselves, back to our original vision of life, deep, real connection. My one thought is reconnection. Mm-hmm. And I'm so happy I saw the fairy immediately in the right bottom corner.
Wonderful.
Okay, did you see you fairy? Did you see you fairy in the picture? So I don't know, we still have time, because usually we finish until 7:45. Let's see with the host. If it's not, if it's possible, please. If it's not, then we have to carry on one of the Wednesdays. So
absolutely,
our journey carries on.
Good morning.
Thank you. Let's see.
Good morning and Om Shanti. How long is the video, Shanti?
Oh, it's probably like less than a minute.
Okay, that's fine.
It's probably 20 seconds. Probably 20 seconds. It just gives you a snippet of it.
Okay, great. No
It's not
problem.
well edited, but it will
It's
give you
fine.
a sense.
It's fine. We can do that.
Okay, sure.
Okay, everyone, enjoy it.
Thank you. It was a
Okay.
very short video, just to give you some images from the other artists. I didn't have time to put that together.
Okay,
but yeah,
I think we captured the most important thing. It's number 15. What is the street name?
Abbotswold Road.
Okay, that's it. And there is a possibility to contact. So I'm gonna be the first one to come to the gallery. Thank you very much.
Shanti, will you like to just type it on the chat, the address and your number or contact details?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I will do that. Thank you.
Okay.